She said it like she was doing me a favor. "You're overreacting, I haven't replaced you yet." Her friends laughed in that tight, polite way people laugh when they don't want to pick a side. I nodded once like she just told me the weather. By the time she woke up the next morning, I already knew exactly what I was going to do, down to the boxes, the bank logins, and the date on the lease. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. I'm Ethan Caldwell. I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I'm the kind of guy who keeps extra phone chargers in the kitchen drawer and copies of important documents in a folder that actually has a label. I work as a supply chain planner for a medical device company, which basically means my whole job is preventing emergencies that other people won't see until it's too late. I'm not flashy. I don't post grindset quotes. I just handle things quietly and consistently. Marissa Lane was the opposite. She worked in brand partnerships for a boutique fitness studio, the kind with neon signs on the wall and smoothies that cost the same as a full lunch. She was good at her job because she was good at people. She could walk into a room and make it feel like the room was lucky she showed up. When we started dating, that energy felt like sunlight. We were together a little over 3 years. For the last year and a half, we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment just outside downtown. Both of us were on the lease. Utilities were in my name because my credit was stronger, and it was easier when we moved. We had a shared email account for bills, a little home stuff inbox that our internet and power statements went to. We also had a shared iPad that lived on the kitchen counter for recipes, grocery lists, and streaming. On paper, we looked balanced. I was the stable one. She was the social one. I really believed it. I thought that meant we were a team. If you want proof I was all in, I can give you one scene that's burned into my memory like a still frame. About a year into dating, Marissa got blindsided when her dad had a health scare. Not life-threatening, but scary enough to flip her whole world upside down. She called me late on a Tuesday night, voice shaking, and said, "I don't know what to do. I can't think." I was halfway through folding laundry. I didn't say some big speech. I just got my keys, drove to her place, and found her on her couch in an oversized hoodie, staring at her phone like it was a bomb. I sat next to her and said, "Okay, give me the phone." She hesitated, then handed it over like she was surrendering. I opened a note and started making a list. Doctor's office number, insurance card photo, questions to ask, things to pack. I called the nurse line with her next to me, and when they put us on hold, I squeezed her hand and said, "You don't have to be the strong one right now. I can be the strong one." She leaned into my shoulder and whispered, "Thank you." It was small, real, no performance. That night I stayed over, set an alarm, and drove her to the hospital in the morning. I brought a charger, a water bottle, and a granola bar for her because she hadn't eaten. Her mom hugged me in the waiting room like I was family. That's the version of us I held on to. For a long time, things were good. We had routines. Friday takeout, Sunday grocery runs. She'd steal my hoodies and I'd pretend to complain. We talked about saving for a house someday. She'd scroll engagement rings on her phone and act like it was a joke, but she'd look at me afterward like she was checking my reaction. Then, around late summer, something started to shift, not in a dramatic way, more like the temperature in a room dropping a degree at a time until you suddenly realize you're cold. It started with her phone. Marissa always had her phone out, but she used to be casual about it. She'd toss it on the couch, leave it face up on the counter, hand it to me to change a song. Then she started keeping it face down. If a notification popped up, her hand would move fast, like she was swatting a fly. She got obsessed with privacy, which is fine in theory, except the timing was weird. One night I reached for the iPad to pull up a recipe and she said, too quickly, "Don't use that right now." I blinked at her. "Why?" She smiled like I was silly. "It's just, I'm logged into stuff." She also changed her routine. She started going out more, networking, meeting clients, getting drinks with the girls. I'm not controlling. I don't need someone to sit at home, but it stopped feeling like her life included me. It felt like I was the part she stepped over on her way out the door. The comparisons started small too. She'd mention her ex in these casual little ways, like he was a fun trivia fact about her past. "Dylan would have loved this place," she said once at a new brunch spot, like she was complimenting the pancakes. I looked at her and said, "Okay, do you love it?" She laughed. "You're so serious, Ethan." I knew Dylan existed. Everyone has a past. She told me early on he was immature and bad at commitment, and I never asked for details because I didn't care. I was with her now. That was enough. But his name started showing up more, and her tone changed. It wasn't angry. It was nostalgic, like she was polishing an old memory and enjoying the shine. We also started clashing about money. She'd want these expensive weekend trips or last-minute concert tickets and say, "We should just do it, life is short." I'd say, "I'm not saying no forever. I'm saying let's plan it." She'd roll her eyes and tell her friends I was a spreadsheet in human form. Once at a friend's birthday dinner, her friend Kelsey raised her glass and said, "To Marissa, for dating the only man in America who thinks a budget is foreplay." Everyone laughed. I smiled because it wasn't worth making awkward. Marissa looked at me like she expected me to laugh harder, like it was cute that I could be teased. It didn't feel cute. The real red flag, the one I ignored because I didn't want to be paranoid, was the way she started treating me like I was temporary, like I was useful but replaceable. She stopped asking my opinion. She stopped talking about we and started talking about I. And still I kept showing up. I made dinner. I paid the power bill. I picked up her dry cleaning when she forgot. I told myself relationships have seasons. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself not to be that guy who reads into everything. Then came the night that snapped it all into focus. It was a Thursday. Marissa said her studio was hosting a small partner mixer at a brewery downtown, some brand reps, a couple local influencers, people from other fitness studios. She wanted me to come, which at first made me feel relieved, like maybe I'd been imagining distance. She wore a fitted black dress and those heeled boots she only wore when she wanted attention. In the car, she was unusually sweet, touching my arm, calling me babe more than usual. I remember thinking, see, we're fine. At the brewery, it was loud but not chaotic. String lights, high-top tables, people pretending they weren't checking who was watching them. Marissa was in her element. She introduced me to a few people like I was a nice accessory. "This is Ethan," she said, fingers on my shoulder. "He does supply chain stuff, like boring genius stuff." One of the guys laughed and said, "Sounds stable." Marissa smiled at him like that word was a joke. I spent most of the night being polite, talking about work, nodding, letting her float around. I wasn't jealous. I just felt like I was watching my girlfriend perform a version of herself that didn't need me. Then near the bar, I saw her leaning in close to a guy with a sharp haircut and a confident posture. They were talking like they already knew each other. His hand touched her elbow, not an accident, and she didn't move away. I walked up calm and waited for her to notice me. She didn't at first. When she finally looked over, her smile flickered. "Ethan," she said, like I'd interrupted. The guy turned and grinned. "Hey man, I'm Dylan." There it was, like a punch you see coming too late. I kept my face neutral. "Nice to meet you." Marissa laughed a little too loud. "Small world, right?" Dylan just moved back. "We're catching up." Dylan lifted his beer. "Yeah, we go way back." I looked at Marissa and said, gently, "You didn't mention Dylan would be here." She sighed and her eyes hardened in a way I hadn't seen before, "Because I knew you'd do this." "Do what?" "Make it a thing," she said. Her voice was sharp now, and a couple people nearby glanced over. I kept my tone even. "I'm not making anything a thing, I'm asking a question." Kelsey appeared out of nowhere, like she'd been waiting for drama. She gave me a tight smile. "Ethan, relax, it's just a brewery. It's not like she's moving in with him." Marissa laughed again, that same laugh people use to cover discomfort. Then she looked right at me and said the line, clear as day. "You're overreacting. I haven't replaced you yet." For a second, everything went quiet in my head, not because I was shocked she could say it, because I realized she meant it. She said it the way someone says, "Don't worry, you're still useful." Dylan smirked like he'd just won something. Kelsey did that fake gasp laugh. Marissa watched me like she was testing how much disrespect I'd swallow. I nodded once. "Okay," I said. Marissa blinked. "Okay." "Yeah," I said. "Have a good night." She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. "Ethan, come on." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't even look at Dylan again. I just walked out. In the parking lot, my hands were steady on the steering wheel. That's the part people don't believe when I tell them later. They assume I was shaking with rage. I was. I felt clear, like my brain finally stopped trying to protect my heart. When I got home, the apartment was quiet. Her gym bag wasn't by the door. She hadn't come back with me. Of course she didn't. She had an audience downtown. She had options. I sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and started doing what I do when something breaks. I made a plan. I didn't sleep much, not because I was spiraling, because I was thinking through logistics, the lease, the bills, what was mine, what was shared, what I could change legally, what I couldn't. Around 2 a.m., I walked into the kitchen to get water and saw the iPad on the counter. The screen lit up when I bumped it. A notification banner was sitting there in plain view from the shared email account. Reservation confirmed. I didn't have to touch anything to see the sender line and the first words. It was a hotel booking confirmation, not for Grand Rapids, Chicago, 2 nights. The dates were the following weekend. My first thought was that it could be for work, but her studio wasn't in Chicago. Her partner mixer was here, and she hadn't mentioned a trip. I tapped once because the iPad was already logged in to the shared inbox we both used. No password hack, no sneaking. This was literally the device we used to pay rent. The email opened, a standard confirmation with the hotel name, reservation number, and guest details. Marissa Lane plus 1 guest. A note in the booking details, late check-in requested. I stared at it for a long moment, not because I needed more proof, because I realized I didn't want to live in a relationship where I had to collect proof. I didn't want to be an investigator in my own home. Still, my brain did what it does. It connected dots. Chicago next weekend, Dylan back in town, her line at the brewery, the way she'd been acting like she was already halfway out the door. I didn't forward the email. I didn't print it out like some movie. I just took a photo of the screen with my phone because I knew one thing. When people like Marissa panic, they rewrite history. I wanted one simple receipt that was obtained without doing anything shady, a record that existed in our shared space. Then I went back to bed and slept for maybe 2 hours. The next morning, she came home around 10 a.m. like nothing happened. She kicked off her boots, tossed her purse on the chair, and walked into the kitchen. She saw me at the table with my coffee and said, casual, "So, are you done being weird?" I looked up and said, "We need to talk." She groaned, "Oh my God." I kept my voice flat. "What you said last night wasn't a joke." Marissa leaned against the counter and crossed her arms. "You're taking it out of context." "Then give me the context," I said. She huffed. "I was trying to get you to loosen up. You get jealous and tense, and you suck the air out of the room." "I didn't yell," I said. "I didn't accuse you. I asked why Dylan was there." Kelsey's name popped up on her phone, and she glanced down like she wanted backup. Then she looked at me, eyes narrowed. "Dylan is a friend. It's not my fault you can't handle it." I slid my mug a little, keeping my hands visible and calm. "Are you going to Chicago next weekend?" Her eyes flicked just once, that tiny tell, then she recovered. "What?" "Chicago," I repeated, 2 nights. She stared at me like she was deciding which version of the truth to use. "It's a thing, a brand thing." "For your studio." She hesitated. "For networking." "With who?" She threw her hands up. "See, this is exactly what I mean. You interrogate me." I nodded. "Okay." She blinked again. "Okay." "I'm not interrogating you," I said. "I'm listening to how you respond to basic questions." Marissa's face shifted, and the smugness returned like armor. "Ethan, you're not going to control me." "I'm not trying to," I said. "I'm deciding what I'll accept." She scoffed. "You're being dramatic because you don't like competition." That word, competition, like I was supposed to compete for my own girlfriend. I stood up slowly and said, "I'm going to take a walk." She laughed like I was ridiculous. "Go cool off." I didn't correct her, I didn't argue. I just left the apartment, walked 2 blocks, and sat on a bench outside a coffee shop. The air was cold enough to sting. It felt good, like reality. That was my quiet decision moment, not a big emotional breakdown, just clarity. I wasn't going to be an option. I wasn't going to wait while she did a thing in Chicago with networking. I wasn't going to live with someone who could say, with a straight face, that she hadn't replaced me yet. That meant she was already looking. So I made a 72-hour plan. Step 1 was protecting what I could, legally. I wasn't going to drain accounts or do anything petty, but I was also not going to fund her exit strategy. We didn't have a joint bank account, thank God, but she was an authorized user on one of my credit cards, the one we used sometimes for groceries, and then I'd pay it off. It was convenient. It was also a mistake. I called the card company on my lunch break and removed her as an authorized user. No drama, just a request. They confirmed it would be effective immediately and mailed a new card number to me. I logged into the utility accounts and changed the password, then added two-factor authentication to my phone. Not because I thought she'd hack anything, because those were in my name and I didn't want accidental, late fees or changes. Then I emailed our property management office. The building wasn't owned by a small landlord. It was a company. Everything was documented. I wrote politely that due to a relationship change, I would be moving out and wanted to know the process for either transferring the lease to the remaining tenant or terminating early. I asked for the exact fees and timeline in writing. They responded the next morning. Marissa could qualify a loan if she provided updated income documentation, or we could both sign a lease termination with a fee equal to 1 month's rent. If she didn't qualify a loan, the lease would stay in both names until the end of term. Perfect, not emotionally perfect, logistically perfect, clear paths, paper trails. I called my friend Derek, who I've known since college. Derek is the guy who owns a pickup truck and actually enjoys lifting heavy things. He answered and said, "What's up?" I said, "Can I borrow your truck this weekend?" He paused. That sounds like a loaded question. It is, I said, but I'm calm. I just need help moving boxes. He didn't ask for gossip. He just said, "I'm in, Saturday morning." I also texted Nina, a coworker who used to be a paralegal before switching to supply chain because she wanted stability. Nina is the person you want in your corner because she thinks in bullet points. I said, "Quick question, lease situation. Can I run something by you?" She replied, "Already yes, send details." I didn't tell everyone at work. I didn't post online. I didn't try to embarrass Marissa. I kept it tight and quiet because the goal wasn't revenge. The goal was exit. That Friday night, Marissa acted like nothing was wrong. She came home with takeout and kissed my cheek like we were normal. "I got your favorite," she said. I looked at the bag. It was the place she liked, not me. "Thanks," I said, and kept packing my lunch for the next day. She watched me for a second. "Are you still mad about yesterday?" I said, "I'm not mad, I'm thinking." She rolled her eyes. "God, you always do that." I didn't respond. That weekend, I moved fast. Saturday morning, while Marissa was at a hot yoga training, Derek showed up with his truck. We didn't blast music. We didn't joke loudly. We just worked. I'd already bought boxes. I'd already packed most of my clothes and personal items. I left shared kitchen stuff alone. I didn't take things that weren't mine. I took what I could prove I bought or what was clearly mine. My tools, my work laptop, my books, my clothes, the framed photo of my late grandfather, the coffee grinder my sister gave me. Small things that matter. I also took my name off the internet account and scheduled cancellation effective the end of the billing cycle. Not to be cruel, but because it was in my name, she could set up her own. Adults do that. Derek carried boxes while I taped them shut and labeled them. At one point he looked around the apartment and said, quietly, "You sure about this?" I said, "I'm sure." He nodded like that was enough. We moved my stuff into a small storage unit on the east side, 1 month prepaid. Not forever, just a buffer. I'd already toured a studio apartment across town that was available the next week. Smaller place, less couple life, but clean and close to work. That night, Marissa came home and froze when she saw the empty closet space and the missing shoe rack. "What is this?" she said, voice rising. I didn't flinch. "I'm moving out." She stared like she couldn't compute. "Because of a joke." "It wasn't a joke," I said. She stepped closer, eyes wide. "You can't just leave. We have a lease." "I know," I said. "I emailed management. They gave options. I'll forward you the email." Her mouth opened and closed. "This is insane." I kept my tone even. What's insane is staying when someone tells me I'm not replaced yet. She scoffed. "You're twisting my words." "I'm taking your words literally," I said. "That's the safest way." She tried a different angle, softer, almost sweet. "Ethan, babe, come on. Dylan is nothing. You're my boyfriend." I looked at her and said, "Then you should act like it." Her face hardened again. "You're doing this to punish me." "No," I said. "I'm doing this to protect myself." Sunday I finished. I packed the last of my things while she sulked in the bedroom, slamming drawers loudly like a teenager. I didn't engage. Before I left, I wrote a note on a plain piece of paper and set it on the kitchen counter next to the iPad. I'm not a backup plans. That was it, 5 words, no insults, no paragraphs, no pleading. Then I walked out with my final box and locked the door behind me. The first wave hit an hour later. Calls, back to back, I didn't answer. Then texts. Are you serious? You're embarrassing me. Call me now. This is abusive. That one almost made me laugh, but I didn't. I just kept driving to Derek's place to drop off the truck and thanked him. By Monday, the flying monkeys arrived. Kelsey messaged me on Instagram even though we weren't close. You really blindsided her. She's crying. You're being cold. I replied with one line. This is between me and Marissa. Please don't contact me again. Then I blocked her because I didn't owe her a debate. Marissa's older cousin, Aunt Joanne, who I'd met at holidays and always seemed friendly, called me. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message that sounded like she was reading from a script. Ethan, honey, relationships take work. Don't throw this away over pride. Marissa is just passionate. I didn't call back. I sent a text. I appreciate your concern. I'm not discussing this. Derek got a text from someone he didn't know, and he forwarded me a screenshot. It was Marissa trying to recruit him. Tell Ethan he's being dramatic. He's making a mistake. Derek replied, not my business, and blocked her too. That's a real friend. Marissa finally switched tactics. She sent a long message at 2:17 a.m., the kind people send when they want you to feel guilty. I can't believe you did this after everything. I thought you were the one person who wouldn't abandon me. I've been stressed. I've been trying. Dylan is not even a thing. I said something stupid, but you just left. Who does that? I read it once, then responded with 2 sentences. I'm not available for a relationship where I'm spoken to that way. Communication with me will be limited to lease and property logistics. She replied instantly, so you're really going to throw away 3 years. I didn't respond. The property management email became my shield. Everything stayed in writing. I forwarded Marissa the lease options, highlighted the part about her qualifying a loan. I told her I would pay my half through the end of the month regardless, but after that, she needed to decide, take over the lease or sign termination. She tried to argue in circles. You should pay the fee, you're the one leaving. I replied, we can split it or you can take over. Those are the options. She tried guilt, I can't afford this alone. I replied, then we should terminate. She tried rage, you're ruining my life. I replied, I'm managing mine. At some point, she sent me another message that was clearly meant to hurt. You're not even the kind of man women fight for. I stared at that for a moment and realized how much I'd been shrinking to fit her world, like my steadiness was something to apologize for. I didn't answer because the answer wasn't a comeback. The answer was distance. The next few weeks were uncomfortable, but clean. I moved into the studio apartment across town. The first night it felt too quiet. No perfume, no slammed cabinets, no constant social noise, just me and my boxes and a cheap lamp I bought at Target. I set up my bed on the floor, took a shower, and stood in the small kitchen with a frozen meal in my hand, thinking, this is what peace looks like at the beginning. It's not exciting, it's just quiet. I built routines on purpose. Gym after work 3 days a week, not to glow up for revenge, to burn off stress. I started cooking simple meals again instead of ordering takeout based on someone else's cravings. I went to bed earlier. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. At work, my performance actually improved. That's the part people don't talk about. When you stop living in emotional chaos, your brain suddenly has extra bandwidth. I handled a supplier issue that had been dragging for months and got a quiet, nice job from my manager. Nina noticed and said, you look lighter. I told her I am. I reconnected with friends I'd been neglecting. Derek and I started doing Sunday morning coffee again. We'd sit at a little place near the river and talk about normal things, sports, work, movies. Not Marissa. I didn't want my life to be about her, even in absence. I also started volunteering once a week at a local animal rescue. Not because I'm some saint, because it forced me to focus on something outside my own head. You can't spiral when a nervous dog is leaning into your hand like you're the safest thing in the room. Marissa didn't disappear, though. She kept trying. Sometimes it was sweet, sometimes it was mean, sometimes it was almost funny. She sent a selfie one day with the caption, "Miss this." I didn't respond. She sent another, "I talked to my therapist. She says you have avoidant attachment." I didn't respond. She sent, "Dylan is seeing someone else. Are you happy now?" That one told me everything I needed to know. Dylan wasn't nothing. Dylan was the measuring stick. When he stopped being available, she suddenly wanted her stable option back. I kept communication strictly business. We ended up signing the lease termination and splitting the fee. Painful, but it closed the loop. I got my deposit share back. I kept receipts of every payment, every email, every agreement. Not for court, for sanity. Months passed. Spring turned into summer. The sharp edge of the breakup dulled into something I could hold without bleeding. I didn't instantly find the love of my life. I didn't become some new person overnight. I just became myself again, without someone constantly testing how much disrespect I'd tolerate. One night, Derek invited me to a small charity auction at a craft brewery. It was a fundraiser for the animal rescue I volunteered with, and a few local businesses donated items. Nothing fancy, just a room full of people drinking beer and bidding on gift baskets. I almost didn't go because I was tired, but I went anyway. I wore a button-down. I showed up. I talked to a couple volunteers. I bid on a stupid basket with coffee beans and a mug because it made me laugh. Halfway through the night, I walked toward the back to grab a water, and that's when I saw her. Marissa was there, dressed like she was attending a different event. Hair perfect, makeup perfect, smile ready. She was standing near the bar with Qley, of course, and a guy I didn't recognize who looked like he was trying too hard to seem relaxed. Her eyes locked on mine immediately. That same flicker, that same calculation, like she was updating her mental chart of where she stood. I felt my stomach tighten for half a second, not longing, not anger, just the body remembering. I could have turned away, I could have left, but I didn't want her to have that power anymore, so I walked calmly toward the water station, filled my cup, and turned. Marissa stepped in front of me like she'd been waiting. "Ethan," she said, voice sweet in a way that wasn't real. "Wow, hi." "Hi," I said. Qley's eyes darted between us like she was watching a show. The guy next to Marissa shifted, confused. Marissa tilted her head. "You look good." "Thanks," I said. I kept my tone polite, neutral. She let out a little laugh. "So you're volunteering now. That's cute." I didn't react. I took a sip of water. She leaned closer, lowering her voice like we were sharing a secret. "Can we talk? Like actually talk? I've been thinking a lot. I miss you. I miss us." I looked at her, really looked, and I could see it clearly now. She didn't miss me. She missed the safety, the bills paid on time, the steady presence that made her feel secure while she chased excitement. Behind her, I saw the shared email receipt in my mind, the Chicago confirmation, the way she said she hadn't replaced me yet, the way she made me feel like a placeholder. Marissa's eyes softened, and for a second she looked almost vulnerable. "I made mistakes," she said, "but we were good, Ethan. You're not going to find someone who—" I raised one hand slightly, not aggressive, just a stop signal. I kept my voice calm. "Marissa," I said, "you don't get access to me anymore." Her smile froze. She blinked fast like she was trying to reset. "What does that even mean?" "It means," I said, "I'm not your option. I'm not your backup. I'm not your stability while you shop around." Qley made a small sound like she wanted to jump in, but I looked at her once, and she stayed quiet. Marissa's face flushed. "So you're still punishing me?" "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm choosing me." For a moment, she looked like she might cry. Then her pride snapped back into place. "Wow," she said, "you really think you're better than me now?" I shook my head slightly. "No, I think I'm better for myself without this." She stared at me like she couldn't decide whether to insult me or beg. That old pattern. Deny, rage, bargain. But this time I didn't stay for it. I stepped to the side and said, "Take care." Then I walked away, back toward Derek and the other volunteers, and it felt like walking out of a room with bad air into fresh night wind. Later that night, as I drove home, I realized something simple and huge. The best revenge wasn't her suffering, it was me being free. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.